Okay, so this is our third guest. Well, actually, this is the first interview I've done.
Okay, so this is
So,
the first interview
yeah,
for you,
first guest with me. So the reason why we wanted to bring you on is because I bring you up a lot on the podcast.
Our trips to Costco.
Yes, our trip to Costco, and I'll just bring you up. By the way, this is my sister Jennifer.
Hi.
And I talk about you, just things you've taught me, things you've said to me, and like, I've learned a lot from you. So I was like,
What are big sisters for?
exactly. So I was like, might as well bring her on the show. And so the thing I wanted to talk about was like your story, because I mean, you're my sister, so I already think your story is amazing and inspiring, but I want other people to hear it, and I feel like you've never shared it like in a public space. Like people
No,
who
it would scare people.
I feel like people who know you now that didn't know you 10, 20 years ago probably don't know your full story. They wouldn't believe it.
100%.
And I want you to share like what are the things that people wouldn't believe about your story if they knew you back then and you told them something and they're like, "No way." Like that was you. Like the type of person you were then versus
The person I am
who
now.
you are now. Like you play so many roles right now. You're a mom. You're a wife.
Mm-hmm.
You're a daughter. You're a sister.
Don't forget I'm a dog mom.
You're a dog mom, most importantly, and you're a business owner.
Yes.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a Frenchie
Mm-hmm.
that's 2.5, and I had a pug, but you and Mom have adopted
We
him.
have him hostage
Yeah,
right
you have him
now.
hostage. He doesn't want to come back home.
Gizmo and Frankie. Okay. And you're a business owner. You've had your business for how many years?
7 years.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. And you do hair. That's your business.
Yeah.
You do hair.
Yes.
So I kind of want to take it sort of from the beginning. We're not going way, way back, but like, what was it that made you, I guess, change in your life to start making like these important moves in your career and just in your lifestyle?
When I had my son, Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
who's about to turn 18 in like 2 months, July.
Crazy.
I just remember after having him, like I was pushing him in the stroller and I was 22 and feeling like, well, shit, I just did that. Just had a baby. So now, like, I could do anything. So at 22, I realized that if I just kind of put my mind to anything, I could just get it done and just do it. Like, there was no fear. So it was definitely the moment when I became a mom. Because I was young and there was things that had happened prior to having him.
Yeah.
That made me realize that were kind of scary things. But then having him, I was like, well, if I could do that, I can do anything. So I just kind of started from there.
Okay, so you would say that your ambition and motivation started when it kick-started when you became a mom?
100%.
Okay. Prior to becoming a mom, what was like your experience like kind of just on your own, like being a teenager? Like what were your like struggles or like I don't know, I like when I hear stories of people like coming up from like all these like obstacles and circumstances and like maybe people that weren't as privileged or as advantaged to have, I don't know, certain resources, if that makes sense.
Well, I definitely did not. I did in the beginning because my parents, from like the time I was born till about like maybe 13, 14, they had a business. They were very successful. But then at like 13, 14, they got a divorce. They basically like lost everything, lost their business, lost their house. And then at like 16, my mom had to just basically start from nothing. We had nothing. She became a property manager to provide a roof over our head. We moved like 35 minutes away from the city that I was born and raised in, so that was really hard. And she was on welfare, food stamps, and we were used to a life of basically having money at our disposal and like living in a house and having a car. I don't even think mom had a car at that time. But seeing that at that age, it definitely impacted me. But I remember not really fully understanding or kind of grasping it because, you know, you're a teenager. Like you just, like shit is happening around you, but you don't fully understand what's happening. But now as an adult with grown children that are the age that I was at that time, it's kind of freaking crazy because, and I've actually shared the story with my children because I don't have a relationship with my dad and I've chosen not to because when you're an adult and like it has not been easy from being 22 and now being 40 and having kids and being married and staying married and raising them. So I feel like my dad gave up and that's why I choose to not have a relationship with him. I do not give up, right? Like I continue every day when it's hard. I enjoy things, but some days like they're super shitty and some days you don't enjoy being a parent or just being an adult. But I don't give up. And so yeah, I don't even know. Like I was not privileged. I was in the beginning, but then I kind of fell off of the privilege.
Right. Did you have anybody that you looked up to or like inspired you
No.
or like told you can do it or
No.
you could do this? Like
I had no one. It was just me.
yeah.
And I actually didn't realize that until I went to therapy when I was like 34, 35. And my therapist was like, okay, because, you know, whenever you have a therapist, they always want to know like your backstory. And she was like, so how did you even like think that you could do the things that you've done? And I was like, well,
How
because
dare
I
you?
just told myself that I could just do it. And so I just did it. And she's like, so like you didn't have anyone telling you? And I was like, no, I just told myself that I could do it. And so I just did it. And she was like, well, you should be proud of that. And I was like, well, I didn't have a choice. So I just did it,
Right.
you know, right? So no, I didn't have anyone because I was from the 90s. Like, what did we have? We had Dawson's Creek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
90210.
90210. Like, no, there was no one to look up to.
Yeah.
No.
That was like in your situation or like
No.
And it's funny because like you see like the world now and how it's evolving and things are being more like diversified.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling my boyfriend how like when I was a kid or a teenager, I used to love Lizzie McGuire, and I really loved that she had a friend named Miranda who was a Latina.
Okay.
And she was probably the only person like in a show that I was watching at the time like
that you could
that
like,
I could relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of sucks because I would say like, I mean, I don't know. Would you consider yourself a millennial?
I'm a senior millennial.
Senior, right?
I
Like,
still carry cash.
Yeah, I would say a lot of like millennials kind of have that experience of just like feeling a little bit alone or like not feeling included.
And actually, my husband and I talk about it all the time. He was born in 1984. I was born in 1983. And so as parents, we definitely explain everything to our children. Like we are 100% like upfront, honest, and sometimes too honest, but I will tell them like, I'm just telling you this because I just want you to like understand.
Right.
Because we felt, and even though he had a mom and a dad and he had older siblings, he also felt like he didn't understand the shit that was going on around him.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the shit that was going on. Like there was just stuff happening around us, but we didn't understand it. We couldn't process it. But that was normal for people in the 90s.
Right.
And I think that's why now, like after we've all kind of grown and gone to therapy, we're like, oh shit, we were just like figuring it out. So definitely whether you were rich, poor, advantage or disadvantage, I think everybody was living in a time that we were just all trying to figure it out, and we did not have anyone to look up to. Your parents did not explain anything to you, and we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have TikTok or Instagram to just we had pagers, but it was like we didn't have anything point of reference. We had no point of reference from the 90s for sure.
I mean, because I relate to that in a way where I didn't feel like I had anybody guiding me or anybody actually believing in me. Even if like my family wanted to believe in me, they kind of just didn't know how to like help me like
Mm-hmm.
be better.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when she talks about you a lot, like I find like I relate to you,
Mm-hmm.
and like I think you have just a story of like someone that started from the bottom and kind of had to teach themselves everything.
I
And
had to teach myself everything. Yes.
and there's so much energy that goes into just like having to be really your own support system.
For sure.
And like it gets exhausting.
It's tiring.
When did you meet your husband?
I met him when I was 19 or 20. I don't know. We met in 2003. So how old was I? It's 20 years ago. So I was like 20. Maybe I was just about to turn 20. I think he was 19.
Probably just turned 20.
Yeah, I had just turned 20.
Just turned 40.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. So in 2003, we met. We were working together. And actually, we were friends for like maybe 7, 8 months because we worked together. So we didn't want to like date. We didn't want to be attracted to each other because that could be weird at the
Right.
workplace.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, we ended up liking each other because we just like started off as friends. We would hang out, we would smoke weed, watch movies, drink. We would just hang out.
Yeah.
And then we became good friends and had kids. Well, had Jake.
So
Got
the
pregnant, had
story
Jake.
behind you and Lewis, I think, is very interesting because you were both at a point in your lives where you were like, we don't know what we're doing.
We had no idea.
But you were pregnant.
I got pregnant.
And we were all like, what the heck is she gonna do? Because
Right.
you were not the type of person to like become a mom.
No, I was wild.
Yes, you were wild.
I was a 21-year-old just living my life.
And I think you had just gotten into a car accident.
I had just gotten into a really bad car accident, just got my second DUI, got my first DUI at 18. Didn't even have a driver's license because back in those days, you just drove a car. Like mom just gave me a car, didn't tell me how to register it, didn't tell me anything, and I was speeding on the freeway and I got pulled over. Like, how do you get a DUI and you don't even have a driver's license? I mean, it's
90s
insane.
Kids,
right.
I guess.
So then I think, and then, you know, I had to pay my fines. And so then I think when I was 19, like my license was only suspended, or I couldn't get like my license till I was like 19. Then I got my driver's license on New Year's Eve. And then like I knew I shouldn't be drinking and driving, but it was just what you did. There was no Uber.
No Uber.
There was no Uber. And I was in Old Town Pasadena drinking sake. And I just got no, we We were at the sushi place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were coming home from the sushi place after
But
that?
actually, like, when I think back to that time, there was a lot of stuff, like, that was happening. Like, my life was, like, spiraling out of control. And there was just, like, it was something bad was going to happen. Because I think, like, I was just going out all the time. I had gotten fired from my job. So I was, like, in between jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I did want to go to beauty school. I had checked out beauty school, but I didn't sign up. Like, I just didn't know what I was doing. And then I had bought a new car, and I don't even know what I was doing for work. But, and I think Lewis and I we were broken up. We had broken up. So,
wow.
The night before I got my DUI, friends and I had gone out to Hollywood, and I had parked in the wrong place and my car got towed. I was so mad because my car got towed the night before. New car got towed. I had to pay like, I don't know, a couple $100s to get it. And then the next night I went out with friends and we were drinking, and I drove home and crashed my car. So when I think, like, really bad. So when I think about it, like, it was just a matter of time for something to kind of happen. Something was going to happen. Like, I was spiraling out of control, but I didn't have anyone telling me, you know, you should really, like, relax.
No one.
Yeah.
No, like, mom and dad never said anything. They never ever were like, you know, you could, like, they never scared me. Like, I scare the boys. I'll tell them the truth to, like, scare them. And maybe that's why my son doesn't want to get his driver's license. I don't know. But, like, I wasn't afraid and nobody was scaring me. I was just kind of spiraling.
Yeah, so something was going to happen. A change needed to happen. I remember never seeing you. Like, we lived together, never saw you.
I was never home.
And when I heard you were in the car accident, I was just like, I don't know, I was like 12 or 13, so I didn't know what to think of it. But then we heard it was really bad.
It was
But when we saw you in the hospital, you were fine.
Well, because I think I was so drunk that I was just like, woo.
Yeah, they said it was a miracle because the car was messed up. And like to me, I was like, wow, like I'm really glad she's okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And soon after that, you got pregnant, and I was like, what the heck? Like she's
I
gonna have a
know.
kid. And thankfully, like during that time, we all lived together, and
Yeah.
we all moms was supporting you and Lewis, but Lewis had gotten a DUI too.
Lewis had gotten his first DUI
That during the same time,
after mine. And I
and
was with him when he got it. And
I didn't know that.
I was with him.
And then during the whole pregnancy,
And I think I bought that alcohol because he wasn't even 21 yet.
he wasn't 21 yet. So we got two DUI 20-year-old over here. You're pregnant, and Lewis.
No, I got pregnant when he went
He was
into
in-
rehab.
So Lewis went to rehab during
I
the
got
whole
pregnant.
pregnancy. Lewis was in rehab,
Yes.
but he was there for you. He would come every weekend,
Yes.
and you didn't have a car because you
No.
had your DUI. So I remember you were always taking the bus to work.
Yes.
You were like struggling,
And I was very pregnant.
and yes, you're huge. And I remember you asked mom one day to give you a
And
ride.
she said no.
She was like, no.
She would never give me a ride.
It was so messed up.
It was raining. And I was like, can you give me a ride because it's raining? And she gave me an umbrella and told me no.
Yeah. So there was a lot of obstacles. That's the point
100%.
I'm trying to make. And then I guess a few years into Jake being little, you were like, I want to go to school. You have been planning that.
Yes, it took about a year of working at my job to like get on the wait list for beauty school because it took forever because I refused to pay, $25,000 at that time to go to Paul Mitchell. And then I had to like get on a wait list to get free childcare because how was I going to quit my job and pay for Jacob's childcare? And in that time, like I was working, Lewis was working, like we were little by little, like getting our lives together, literally from like nothing because we both didn't have cars.
Yeah.
He had just come out of rehab, like when Jacob was born.
Yep.
We didn't have anything. He couldn't get a job because he had like a felony. I don't think he has a felony DUI. I think it was like a felony with body injury or something like that because he did hit a car. But he couldn't get a job. Like he couldn't even get a job at Home Depot or like any Old Navy. I remember
how did he end up working?
Construction will hire anyone. So he got a pretty good job.
Yeah.
No. First he was doing something else, but we just kind of figured it out. And then when he was working and he was kind of stable, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to go to beauty school because I hate working 9 to 5. I hated the office. It was so freaking boring. I hated being there every day at 8 o'clock. And I missed being with my son. Like I would see moms, during the day with their kids. And I was like, well, why don't I get to spend time with my son? Like, why is my nanny spending time with him? Like, I would much rather do it. So then that's when I decided, like, all right, I'm going to figure out how I can work for myself and just basically, like, no one's ever going to tell me that I can and cannot be somewhere for my children because I'm just going to make my own schedule. So, yeah, I think when he was like 2 is when I made that decision.
And no one was rooting for you.
No.
If in fact, I feel like people were doing the opposite. They didn't believe in you.
100%.
What did that lady say at your job, like when you were leaving?
Oh, she told me because I was working like, I think it was like I was working in an office and the girl, let's see, how old was I? I was like 24 and she was like maybe 35 or 36. She had just had her first baby. And she's like, well, I guess you're never too old to have dreams or something like
Something
that.
about dreams.
Yeah, something like, well, and I was just like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
she just was not being supportive. She was probably bitter that I like stuck to what I said I was going to do, that I was only going to work there for a year. And because I had kind of like switched jobs a little bit. Like I was being stable, but I was like making moves so that I could get to my next step. And so I think that's why she said that, because I was only there for a year and I said that when I left there, I was going to go to beauty school. And that's what I did.
You did what you said.
I did what I said.
Yeah. And that was a surprise for her. And I think everyone was kind of like, oh, we don't really know like if she's going to do it or not, if she's going to make it. Like,
right.
But you did it.
I did.
And you worked different salons afterwards.
Well, first I assisted the guy who did my hair. on Saturdays, just to make sure that I liked it, that
Yeah.
I even liked talking to clients or touching their head, and
That's
and I
important.
did.
See if you even like it.
Yes. And then I did that for a year, and then in that time was when I was waiting to get into PCC, because there's a long wait list. And then I got in, and I remember when school started, Mom, 2 weeks before school was supposed to start, she's like, guess what, we're moving, and I'm going to charge you guys $800. And I was like, huh? Like, I just quit my job. Like, we're only going to have one paycheck.
Yeah.
And you're going to double my rent now? Like, because I think at that time we were paying Mom like $500 or something like that. I was like, and you're going to move us like further away from where I had my life planned, and Mom kind of screwed it up. So then we moved in with Lewis's parents, which was not easy because he was never home. He was traveling. Like, he used to work Monday through Friday out of town. So it was just me and Jake at his mom and dad's house. And I was not his mom's favorite person because I had, had a child with her youngest child, her baby. I was not her favorite person.
Yeah.
But I think they tolerated me because I was the mother of their grandchild.
And because you didn't speak Spanish too. So
right. So there was just like, I couldn't speak
Lewis's family's like traditional Mexican family. Like his mom is from, where's she
His
from?
mom is from Merida, which is Yucatan, South America. And his dad is from Michoacan. So they're just very traditional Mexican family. Wonderful family. But at the time, like, I get it. I was not their favorite person.
And because of what Lewis's life was looking like, they thought you were also influenced. Like, they
blamed me for a lot of the things that had happened. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So you had to do another hard thing, live with your boyfriend's family.
Yes. For a year. We did that maybe for like a year and a half, and then I went to beauty school, and then I got my first job, and like I just started saving money because I wanted to move out. I hated living with my in-laws, not because they were horrible people. Like, I don't remember anything being horrible. I just fucking hated living with them. Like,
you wanted to have your own place.
Yeah, I just wanted us to live on our own. And then, we did. I remember Jake was 4, and we were moving into, it was a piece of shit, but it was our piece of shit, and we were so excited because it was our first rental. It was kind of a lot. Like, when I think back, $1,500 for 2008, like, that's
that was
a lot of money
for then.
Yeah, I don't even know how we could afford it. But
you guys were working all the time.
We were both working.
So you worked at
I worked at a day spa, and I did hair. I assisted for 2.5 years, and I hated the guy that I assisted. He was such a jerk. Like, hairstylists have this ego. It's freaking weird. And I think, did you come and get your hair done one time?
I think so.
Yeah, when I was, because we would do like weekly classes or something.
There was like
that.
A spot in Pasadena that I remember.
Yeah, Amadeus.
Yeah.
And so it was fine. I learned a lot. And then I got pregnant with Jordan. And then
was it another like challenge, or were you like, okay, we're having another kid?
Yeah, I just said we were having another kid.
So the part that I think is also really interesting is when you worked at the kids salon.
So I did that after I had Jordan.
And you worked there for?
I worked there for 5 years.
5 years. And to me, it's interesting because you went through those 5 years not loving it.
No.
But you endured it.
Yeah. And I got like some of the best clients out of it that I still have today, which is how many years later now? Like 12 years? Like, I've known some of those clients for like 12, 13 years.
So it's kind of like when we're doing a new challenging thing, like we want to go to school or we want to take on a new career.
And we're like, what are we going to get out of this? Sometimes you get some of the most amazing experiences and you meet some of the best people that are ever going to be a part of your life.
Because it was hard for you to work that job because your coworker.
Oh my goodness. The first year, so the manager, she hated me. I don't know why. She just didn't like me. And then she ended up leaving, thank goodness. But that first year was really hard. I cut a kid's ear.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was traumatizing. Like, I went home and drank a whole bottle of wine after that because I felt just really bad. And, the mom was more upset that I put a latex bandage on his ear than the fact that I even cut his ear.
What?
But, yes, I know. But my boss did not show me how to fold down the fucking ear. Like, if my manager would have just said, fold down the ear.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have happened. But their
Wow.
training, because it was a small business, like their training just sucked. It was like
Mhm.
sink or swim. And that first year was really freaking hard. But then after that, it was great.
So were there days when you were like, I don't want to do this
Oh,
anymore?
100%. Like when you have kids vomiting on you because they're crying or like they
Yeah.
took a shit but you still got to cut their hair while they
Mhm.
smell like shit the whole time. And like, yeah, I'm a mom, but like who wants to smell someone else's shit?
Yeah. Like you went to school, you did so much stuff, and you're like, now I'm just here smelling this shit. Like
100%. And not everybody was nice. Like not all the clients were nice, but
I'm sure.
but you know, some of them were.
Yeah, and from that how did you start your own business? What was the idea behind that?
So I was working there, and then because I had kids and my kids were in school, I would like do fundraisers and I would like sponsor booths and I would do like just all this extra stuff. And I had always known that I wanted my own business, but I didn't really know like how I was going to do it. And I had actually told my boss, who was our cousin, mom's first cousin, our second cousin, because she was like, why do you do all these things? Like, no, I've never had an employee that does these. And I was like, well, because I want my own business one day. Duh. It was like, you know, I would just say things, but duh. Like, why would I not do these things? So then we got to the 5-year mark and I had decided that Lewis and I were going to buy a house. The goal was like our next 5-year plan, because I like to do things in like 5-year increments.
Me too.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Like, what's our 5-year plan? It drives my husband crazy because he's like, I'm just trying to get through today, this week, this month. And I'm like, but what are we doing in the next 5
Lewis
years?
is like, can we just chill like right now?
So can I just have a beer? You're stressing me out.
Yeah.
So the 5-year plan was we were going to buy a house. And
Lewis is like, we're going to what?
Yeah, exactly. And so I told my boss, like, hey, I need to make more money. Like, how can I make some more money? And I think she had asked me, like, if I wanted to be a manager. And I was like, well, yeah, but you need to pay me more. Like, I want to get more money. So then she's like, well, what do you want? And I said, well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to think about it. So then I literally wrote down exactly what I wanted. Like, I knew what I wanted. And I also knew, like, at that point in my career, I had been cutting for like 8 years. Like, it was time to make some real money. You know, like I had been getting paid hourly since I got out of beauty school. Like, I was like, I want to make freaking real hairstylist money. Like, I don't want to make,
because you've seen how much
wage.
they could make.
100%. So I went to her and it took her a month to get back to me.
Oh my
because she had to talk to her husband. And in that month's time, I had discovered studios and they were just coming out. Like, it was a whole new thing where you could rent a studio with a bunch of other hairstylists or estheticians or whatever, and you just pay your weekly rent. So it was like an apartment, but for hairstylists. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. And it wasn't that expensive, and I felt like I could do it. So I put a deposit down while I was waiting for my boss to get back to me, but I could have taken it back if they would have given me what I wanted. They didn't give me what I wanted. She was like, I'll pay you $16 an hour. And I was like, thanks, but I want more money.
Thanks, bye.
So I just said to her, and I was completely honest, I said, thank you so much. I won't be taking you up on your offer as manager, but I will still continue to work here. But just know my goal in the next year is that I'm going to open up my own business. And I was honest with her because I can't help myself. Like, I just have to be honest. I can't lie
all
to people.
the time. Brutally honest.
But she was also like family.
Yeah.
So there was no way I was going to be able to work in her salon and like be whispering to my clients like, hey, I'm going to be moving across the street. Like, I felt like that would be so fucked up. So I was honest. She fired me on the spot. And I was not surprised because mom and I had actually talked about it. And mom said, don't be surprised if she fires you. And I was like, okay. So she fired me. And then I applied for unemployment and I started making house calls to clients. During that time, that was 2014, like social media, Instagram, Facebook, all of that was like really blowing up. So the salon would not give my information to clients. But they knew my name and they knew that I was from Pasadena. So they just found me on Facebook and Instagram. And I was like really and then I used Yelp. So when I opened my business, I paid $365 a month for a year to have like Yelp advertisements. Wow. It was crazy. But like, I just wanted people to find me. And they did. And then like within a year, my business like exploded. Like, I was really busy.
Yeah. I remember you saying, I want to start my own business. And I was taking like a business class at that time at
Mhm.
PCC, and all the professor kept saying was how hard it is to start a small business.
It's hard.
Like
100%.
the percentage of people that fail is so high. And when you told me that, I was like, oh no, like that doesn't sound like a good idea.
But when I was like, when I made the decision, honestly, I think when you make a decision, well, at least for me, I didn't see failure. I was just like, I'm just going to do it. Because just like when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of how my brain works.
Did you have to go through like when you first said you were going to start your business, did you do it like the proper way? Did you get like a
I
license
did.
and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
first before you started? What was that process like?
Well, okay, so the studios were really great. I went to a Sola Salon Studios and they actually give you like a checklist
Okay.
and tell you like, okay, now you're a business owner, go get, all these different licenses. So they actually have like a really good like program. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they are there to support their stylists because they know a lot of us are on our own for the first time. So they actually really helped me. I think the hardest one was the fictitious business license because I had to like go down there and that place is like, I don't even know where it's at. It's kind of far. Um, but other than that, it was all pretty easy. Yeah.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they helped and supported me.
Yeah.
And then like they paid my insurance the first 2 years. Like the Sola salons, they really are there to support their stylists. They want them to be successful. So I think that really helped me. And then I also connected with the SBDC here in Pasadena,
What's that?
Small Business Development Center, and they were amazing. Which ironically was and still is at Pasadena City College where I got my cosmetology license. It's in the same building. And and I always send small businesses to them because they will help you with everything. They're amazing. And actually the main consultant of the Pasadena location, he texted me happy birthday, which was really nice the other day. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so did you always want to be like a hairdresser?
I guess I did because when I think back in high school, I used to cut my friend's hair. I did all her hair for prom. And then when I was like 19, I was like looking at hair school, but I just didn't really know, like I didn't have any guidance in it. And I remember having a friend of a friend that was a hairstylist, and I was like, yeah, this sounds cool. But yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it was always an idea.
It was always an idea. Yeah, but it wasn't until I had my son that I was like, I think I really want to do this because I can be self-employed, because I can make my own schedule, because I could just do my own thing.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to work at 9 to 5. I hated office. It was boring.
And then so what's your next move now? Are you still doing hair?
I still do hair.
Okay.
But I would say I do hair more like part-time now. So the pandemic really changed everything. I had had my business for 5 years and then we had just bought our house. So it was like, there's that 5-year plan, right? We made it happen in the 5 years and then the pandemic. So then I had to close my business, but then I pivoted. I mean, I started making house calls. And I still make house calls till this day. And then I work in the salon just on Saturdays, like 3 times out of the month. So yeah. And I still see a ton of clients. Like my Saturdays are booked like crazy from like 9 to 6 every 30 minutes. I have a client coming in. So I'm booked and I'm happy to see these clients. I've had them for 12, 13 years. But I am starting something new. And, I don't know if it was the pandemic, but I feel like it's just another part of me and things that I like to talk about. Like I love talking about money, not because I'm greedy about money. I just like learning about money and finances, and I like talking to people about it, and I talk to my clients about it, which I feel like that's how we learn. Like that's how I figured out that we could actually afford a house and how much we could afford our house. Like I thought everybody was supposed to buy $1 million house for their first house, but then I found out that nobody spends $1 million on their first house. That there's a starting point. But my clients have really kind of taught me just by talking to them about money and all the things that my beauty school teacher told me not to talk about. Like you're not supposed to talk about religion, finances, and politics.
And you talk about all those.
And I talk about all those things. So, but I feel like if I didn't talk about those things, I wouldn't know the things I know today.
You learn a
because
lot
I've
from your
learned
clients.
so much from my clients, because some of them are older than me, some of them are my age, some of them are younger. But talking to people really allows you, and listening. It's not even so much talking, it's just really listening. You learn a lot from people.
Yeah, a lot of your clients I feel like are pretty successful. Like when was that Pasadena Charm?
Yeah, and
she
she blew up, right? During that time. But even then, like, I referred her to the SBDC. You know, so it was like having, like, when I first opened my business, it was like having those people that were also kind of like looking to open up businesses or trying to figure out what they wanted to do. Like, it's good to have people like that around you when you are a business owner or when you're starting to think about it, because then you guys can like feed off of each other.
Learn from each other.
And learn from each other 100%. Because just like I have questions, they have questions. And so as I move into like this next part, it's kind of crazy because it's financial education. It's also selling like life insurance and life insurance policies, but there's more to that, right? Because you're having to really understand, like, one, what do I want to do with my money, and then share that with people. But I think, like, especially in my industry as a hairstylist, but like for estheticians, cosmetologists, anybody that has a Cosmo license, there's no pension plan, there's no retirement, there's no, like, nobody's talking about what do you do when you don't want to fucking work behind the chair anymore, what do you do when you don't want to see. It's all about, like, just get people to sit in your chair, just get clients, and then you get burned out. But then, like, when you're burned out, what's your backup plan? So that's kind of what my next step is like, what is the backup plan for myself? But also I would love to help and educate other people in my industry.
Yeah, because you're good at it.
Well, I don't mind.
You did it for yourself.
I did it for myself. And I want other people to understand, like, you don't have to be behind the chair. You don't have to, like, I got my brows done today and my lashes, and I was talking to the girl and I was asking her, like, what's your backup plan? Like, what's your retirement plan? She's like, I don't have one. I was like, you don't have one? And she has a kid, and she's only 30. And I'm like, you don't have, like, what if you die? Like, who's going to take care of your son? She's like, I know. I'm like, why haven't you thought about this?
She calls me and asks.
That's so
like,
funny. No, but it's like, honestly, the world needs more people like you that are like, maybe to some people it could be like, why is this lady asking me all this stuff? But
my husband would say that.
But I think a lot of people need that. I think people need people to ask them questions about where they're going, 100%. So they can even have that thought process,
right? Yeah. Because my husband's like, you're the only one that thinks about that. And I'm like, I can't be. He's like, no, you are. You know? No, but I think
you're definitely not.
And the question that I asked the girl today that did my brows, I was like, you know, like, why do we always think that only men can have life insurance? Like, where did that come from? Like, you're a independent woman that has a child. Like, why have you never thought, like, I need to make sure that my kid is going to be okay?
Right.
But instead, we all think our husbands, our boyfriends, our baby's daddies, our partners should have, but why don't we have it?
Right.
So I always make sure that, like, whatever my husband has, I have the same thing, because it goes both ways. Like, we help each other. Our income supports one another. And I want to make sure that, like, he's okay too. He doesn't even know how to pay our bills. So, like, if I were to die, and he always says, like, well, I'd figure it out and I'd go move in with my mom. But I'm like, why would you go back home? Like,
typical guy.
Yes. Like, why would you go back home? Like, the house would be paid off. Seriously. And you would have money. Like, you probably wouldn't even have to work anymore. But it's just like, I'll just go back home. So, you know, I think that maybe for, like, Mexican, Hispanic generations, they never think about the woman having a plan, the woman just kind of putting things in order. Like, the woman is in charge of things.
Yeah.
But why doesn't the woman have a plan of, like, what's going to happen when shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've even talked to Jacob about this, who's almost 18, because I want him to open up his own retirement plan. And I just explained to him, like, I'm not being neurotic.
He's almost 18.
I know.
It's crazy.
I'm like, I know you probably think I'm that lady that, like, talks about dying all the time, but just so you know, mom and dad have a plan. And if we were to pass away, you would not be left with our debt. Like, we still owe money
Right.
on our cars. Like, we still owe money on our house. Like, that'd be so fucked up if we died and we're like, hey, can you do a GoFundMe for our funeral? And by the way, you got to move out of our house now. Oh, and by the way, our cars are going to get repoed. Like, that is fucked up.
My sister hates GoFundMes.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
It's like plan ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one's
Yes.
planning ahead.
No one is planning
nobody's
ahead.
being considerate of what could happen, and
100%.
yeah, you're right. Nobody is planning for anything. Actually,
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of people are just doing what's going on right now,
And that's great. Like, I'm all about
living your
life. Like, my days are not planned. Like, I literally wake up and like, what's going to happen today? Some days
Yeah.
there are planned. They're planned. But it's crazy, right? Because I don't have a lot of plans with like my days. And like sometimes I'm all over the place, but like I'm so freaking worried about like not leaving my children with a plan, like leaving them without anything. So I guess it kind of works out,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm excited for the new journey, but it's the same thing. So as I've been on this new journey of this new business,
Mhm.
I'm coming across roadblocks. I'm coming across rejection, and I forgot because I've had my business for 7 years and nobody tells me no. Everybody like calls me and wants me.
Right.
That I'm like, oh, but I forgot when I first started doing hair, it was not easy.
Yeah.
There was so much rejection. There was so much like, should I be doing this? Is this the right thing to do? So I'm kind of being reminded of that right now. And I've been sharing it with Jazz. Like, and I hate using the word rejection, but I haven't found a word that's better for it.
What do you mean by rejection, though? Like,
Well-
what's an example?
Well, like all in 1 week, I had like reached out to, you know, some people, like followed up with them, making appointments with them. And then it was also like my birthday, and I was trying to like make reservations and plans for my birthday. And like, it was just crickets, like
Yeah.
no response. And so,
Asking about the life insurance stuff.
yeah. And just kind of like following up with people. But then it was also like for my birthday, and I was like, damn, I'm
Happy
getting...
belated birthday.
Thank you. But I think that's good because it's making me remember how you gotta hustle.
Yeah.
And
also
my
stay
hustle's different.
grounded.
And stay
in a
grounded.
way,
Yeah. Like don't let it get to me. Because if I've done it before, like I did, when I had all the obstacles, I could do it again. It's just different. It's
Yeah.
just different, and I'm older now.
I was gonna ask you, since you're talking about like finances and stuff, what's advice that you've learned from like just your clients or just like that you've picked up along the way? Financial advice.
What have I learned?
Or like what's something that really like stuck with you?
Um,
It doesn't even have to be about money.
what has stuck with me? You know, like always have money for a rainy day, and you don't have to have like a huge savings account. You don't. Some people like that. You can borrow money, but be smart when you're borrowing money, right? Make sure, like, if you're going to borrow,
Make sure you can pay it back.
Make sure you can pay back.
Yeah.
As a self-employed person, the biggest thing that I've learned that so many people don't do is do your taxes, get a bookkeeper, and keep, especially in my industry as a hairstylist, like have records, like have your income, because in my industry, it was always a cash industry. Nobody wanted records. No one wanted to get audited. But like, I've been able to get like cars financed. That's how we were able to
write
get
off
the house.
a lot of things.
I can write off so much stuff. So like when I first had my business, I got a bookkeeper. I have a tax guy. And like, yes, he charges me so much fucking money, but it's a tax write-off and I don't have to worry about getting audited. So that is the biggest financial advice, that if you hate doing your books, if you hate doing your finances, just hire someone to do it, and it's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
Who taught you that?
My bookkeeper, who's a woman, by the way. And now I don't really need her just because she's kind of set me up. And then I have a tax guy. I've had the same tax guy for the last 15 years. And he's also taught me that. Like, just pay other people to do the things. And I think I learned that from like other entrepreneurs. Like, there's things in your business that you're going to love, and there's things in your business that you're not. The things that you love, do. The things that you don't, just pay other people to do them. And it's a tax write-off.
And you've probably learned that from your clients too, who have their own businesses.
100%.
Told you stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I would say that's the first. It's like, definitely just keep track of your money. You don't have to claim all your money. Claim what you want, but at least have something, because then you can't apply for loans. You can't.
You have to have good credit.
You have to have good credit. Right,
Keep
exactly.
that credit good. Yeah.
So you do need to have a little bit of money and get a bookkeeper or like a bookkeeping system, and get an accountant to do your taxes. Do not do them yourself.
What advice would you give to someone who, because your big motivation was having kids.
Yeah. So don't like go have kids to be motivated.
So yeah, like, you know, I feel like our generation, like none of my friends have kids, you know, and we're 30.
Yeah.
And
I
mean, I feel like if we had to, we would figure out a way, but because we're not forced to, we're just like living our lives, you know?
Yeah.
But what advice would you give to someone who doesn't have the motivation of kids, and like, what do you think another motivating factor would be other than that?
Well, something that I always tell my kids,
Mhm.
right? And they're young. They're almost 13 and 18. Like I had my son get a job last summer, and he bitched and moaned, and he's like, my mom made me get a job. And I just said, you know, yes, I forced you, but I am giving you like the biggest lesson. Like, you will thank me one day, because what you're going to learn from this job, from having to show up, having to be relied on, responsibility, getting a paycheck, like, it's priceless. So you're welcome, and you're going to learn so much. And he did. And now he loves it. Like, yes, he dreads the fact that he's like, I'm not going to have a weekend off for the next like 6 months. Like, we all dread. Like, I dread my Saturdays, but then once I'm there, I'm fine. I love seeing my clients. I love doing hair, but I dread it. So I feel like that's what it is. But I think it's important to teach young people that, like, we got to do things that make us feel uncomfortable sometimes. We have to do things that, whatever that is, it could be a job, it could be even volunteering, like, it could be whatever gets you out of your comforts. And I tell Jordan this, my younger son who plays baseball, you know, like, you need to be uncomfortable to grow. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
True.
So I think that's the advice that I would give young people. Like, you don't have to go have kids. You might want to get a dog, but you know, and you don't even have to buy a house. Like, some people don't want to buy a house, and that is okay. But as long as you're doing something in your daily life, whether it's doing a really hard workout, whether it's, you know, taking something that's challenging you, a class, even dealing with a person that might be challenging, but if it's helping you grow and get to whatever maybe your goal is, even if it's a 1-year goal, 2-year goal, but if something is helping you grow, then you're doing something good, because you need to be uncomfortable in order to grow.
I agree. So, you know, people say like you are who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
But you surround yourself with your family and your clients mostly.
Yes.
So would you say that like those people are like they help you grow, or because you don't really have like a friend circle?
No.
And why is that?
Well, I don't have much more time.
Yeah, you're really busy.
Super busy.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with the fact that like we had kids so young. So it's like I couldn't really dedicate much time, because now all my friends are in their late 30s and 40s, and they're having kids, and they don't have time. But like I have more time now. They have little kids. So I think it was definitely that. You know, I had kids so young, like I was raising my kids. But it's hard for me to connect with people. Like, I connect and I can make small talk with you all day. But to be like, we're going to be besties, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But then like Lewis and I have made friends as we've gotten older with other couples. Like, we have a lot of couple friends that we like to hang out with.
The kids' parents and stuff. Yeah.
And you know, a lot of them aren't self-employed, but I don't know. Like, it's a good question. I think for me, it's because of the kids. I don't have much more time to give anything else. And honestly, like, I actually like being alone. Like, I like having quiet time because I have my clients. Like, I always have somebody depending on me, so I kind of feel like a friend to depend on me would be just like another thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like we're besties.
I feel like we're besties. I have you and mom and the dogs. I mean, my life is it's all I need.
Yeah. Because, like, sometimes people think, like, you need to have, like, a ton of friends around you, or, like...
I don't.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of work and a lot of energy. And I feel like because mom is single and like it's just me and you, that really like we're our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we have to protect what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And if we bring too many people, I feel like when you have too many friends, you have too many people like in the pot, and that can just cause like there's too many opinions. Like it's just too much.
Yeah. So would you say that you've kind of been able to like focus more with like less people in your life?
100%. Yeah. Because I've had friends like say things and I'm just like, huh?
You know, like, have you ever felt like your friends have been like competitive towards you or like jealous of you?
Never competitive, never jealous. I just always feel like they don't understand me.
Oh,
like they think I'm crazy. Like they think like I'm always jumping around, or like I've had friends say like, you know, you always like try different gyms. Well, yeah, because I got bored of that gym, so I tried a new gym. Or like, you always are trying new things, and it's like, yeah, because I got bored, so I tried. Like I just really feel like I feel like people don't understand me. Yeah. Maybe that's why it's hard.
Not everyone's like that, wanting to try new. Not everyone's like down to try new things all the time.
No.
And it's hard to like hang out with somebody, relate to somebody if they're not going to be on the same level as you. Like you and I always want to try new things. So we're like, yeah, like, and people always ask me like, oh, do you have a sibling? I'm like, yeah, I have an older sister. I'm like, how old is she? And I'm like, yeah, we have like 8-year age gap. And they're like, well, are you guys close? And I'm like, yeah, we are actually.
We're very like every day.
We're very close. And then
if we're not talking, we're texting.
Yeah, and they like just think that's so weird. But I feel like you were also like a role model to me. Like, of course, being my sister, because like you said earlier, like mom didn't teach us a lot of like important things like about like registering your car and like
just like basics.
Yeah, just like the basic stuff, which obviously we know her background.
Right. So I can't blame mom.
Yeah, and like every parent has something that they went through, and like me and Alexis were talking about that with her mom. Her family, they've always been in like survival mode.
Same with us.
And her mom, even though they own their house and they have enough money, like you were like, Mom, get new plates. Like, come on.
I literally just brought her plates from my house because she still has fucking broken plates in her.
There's just some people that live like that.
My mom has taught me how to be frugal,
which is good.
Which is very good. It's a good
it's a good trait.
It's a good skill that I've learned. But because I don't like how frugal she can be, I've just like kind of morphed it into my own type of frugal.
And that's what you do.
Where like I'll invest in something that I really like and I want, even if it's a lot of money and it makes me happy. But it's important to you. Yeah. Versus my mom, like she'll be like, that's too expensive. No, like
it's not important
it's
to
not
her.
even a question.
Yeah.
Even if it is important to her, she's like, that's too expensive. No. But yeah, go on.
Well, what I was saying was like when I was like 19 or 20 and I had to move in with you, I remember I was pissed when mom told me I had to live with you for a little bit because I felt like I was going to like the military, which is funny because I actually do want to go to the military now.
But you were leaving cockroaches. Like, so I don't think living with me was terrible.
Obviously, it was the best thing that could have happened. But see, that's how much I didn't want to live with you because I knew that you were going to make me I was gonna live with I was gonna live with roaches. Like they're okay. We're not gonna get into that. But I remember because you would make me uncomfortable. Like you would ask me questions like, "What classes are you taking? Like, what days are you going to school? Like, how much rent are you gonna pay us?"
You were like, "Huh?"
And then like if I had free time, you're like, "Oh, well, come help me with this." And I'm like, "Bro, like I don't want to help you do these things." And like, because mom didn't make me do anything. But it made me uncomfortable and it challenged me. And you know what? Like, I freaking finished.
You started your life at that time.
Yes, I finished school. I started getting good grades.
You got your driver's license.
You taught me how to drive. Like, all these things happened because you were making me uncomfortable. You were challenging me. And, like, some people, I'm like, this type of person, need that push.
100%.
You do.
I think even Alexis tried to teach me how to drive, and it was, like, not happening. But,
It took a while to finally get yourself to do your driver's.
Yeah, I was scared.
But then I feel like after the 2 years that you lived with me, like you freaking like grew.
Yeah,
a lot.
Because you were like constantly challenging me and making me uncomfortable, do things that I didn't like to do.
100%.
And you would call me out on my shit too.
Like, where's your cash? fucking,
Yeah,
I don't
like
want your debit card. I want money.
I remember you were just like always pissed at me, and I was like, I deserve this, you know?
Well, I'm
But
happy to hear that it helped you.
yeah, definitely. So I don't know. I just think like, yes, you're my sister, but I feel like during that time, like you had to almost be like my mom.
Mm-hmm. I didn't
And
even realize it.
yeah, it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's why I always like bring you up too, because I learned a lot during that time, for sure.
And you helped me. I feel like we had fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was we had fun after, for sure. But that's why when you talk about Jake and like how it's hard for him in school and it's hard for him to like get motivated and stuff, like I feel for Jake.
But I push him, like
Yeah.
right now, like I'm pushing him. He has goals, and every day I'm like, so what are you doing today to get to your goal? He's like, what the fuck, mom? And I'm like, no, seriously, like what you're doing right now, like looking at fucking YouTube, is that helping you get to your goal? And he'll be like, huh? So, and I talk to him just like that. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And are you getting to your goals? Because I'm hoping that I can teach them to have goals. I'm hoping that I can teach them, because motivation is like, it is a thing, but it isn't, right? Like we all are motivated by different things. So I'm hoping whatever the fuck gets them out of bed and excites them. And I tell them this, like, dude, just, I don't care what you do with your future. Just be happy and excited every day. Just be happy and excited. So how do you get there? What are you doing today to get there? Like, that's just what I ask them.
Have you ever been motivated by being like an underdog or being like doubted?
No, I mean, I've never really thought about it like that because I don't really care what people think.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like, yes, I've been through a lot, and like I've seen family, kind of recently, like I've seen family and stuff. Like nobody really cares.
Right.
Like nobody really wants to hear if you're successful or not. I think people actually would rather hear that like you're doing really shitty. Like it would probably make people so happy to know if I was still the same person that I was 20 years ago. But I don't think people really care. Like it might bring them some joy, but I don't think people really care. So no, that definitely doesn't motivate me because I don't think people care too much. I think people love to be in the mix if it's doom and gloom.
Right.
So no, I'm not motivated by that.
It's kind of like what you and Jesse were talking about in your last episode. You were asking that girl, does your family, like coming from a Hispanic culture, are they haters?
Yeah.
They were talking about being haters, like
that. They usually are. They're like, oh, you think you're all cool because you got your own business or whatever. Yep.
Yeah. And why it's messed up that it's like that. So,
well, like Lewis and I went to Ojai last weekend, and there was nothing but white people. Like there was Mexicans, but they all worked. Yeah, their farms.
They're like they gardeners.
They're all the gardeners. They work there. And we were talking about how fucked up it is that there was a lot of white people, but there's a lot of Asians. But then when you see the Mexicans, you're like, oh, it kind of brings down the class. Like it makes things look like kind of ghetto, not as nice. So how have Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, how have they brought up their status? That when you see them with white people, they're kind of the same status. You know why? Money is important to them. Education is important to them. Yes, they all live together, but like they take care of each other. Yeah. They don't, make each other feel bad. They support each other. They're each other's like Chinese people, Japanese people go to school on Saturdays. They got to go to college. Like so many of my clients that are like of Asian descent, they're like, oh, my parents want to be a lawyer, doctor.
That's all.
And that was it. Like I could not be anything else than that. And so I think that like I really wish our culture, like for Hispanics, wherever you're from, instead of like kind of like putting each other down and are babying, because a lot of Hispanics kind of baby, right? They should fucking motivate each other. They should make each other uncomfortable, but not in a bad way. Like I made you uncomfortable, and I maybe I am your sister, but I know I've always like tried to be like, I didn't want to make you feel like shit, but I would tell you the truth, right? So there's nothing wrong with telling the truth, but I just wish it was like for the good.
Well, you would always tell me like, no, you can do this.
Yeah. So I think in our culture, I wish that more Mexican people, family would say that they could do it.
We're about getting to an hour now. We have like 30 seconds. Okay. So it went by fast. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This was awesome. And
Yeah. Would you do this again?
I would.
Did you like doing this?
Yeah, it was fun.
Were you a little nervous?
No,
Okay, good.
because I can talk.
She
I don't care what people
Doesn't
think.
care.
doesn't think, so.
Okay. Well, this is it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.